As with virtually everything else, the history of the horror genre has been host to a slew of ups and downs throughout its long and tumultuous history. Throughout the 70s and 80s, the horror genre was absolutely dominant in a fashion not seen since the 30s and 40s. One horror title swept the box office practically every week, and some of the most iconic horror films were released during such a time frame, such as the many slasher films, and utter classics including Reanimator and Phantasm. Yet, by the 1990s, the horror genre found itself in decline as now, people were mocking and parodying the genre for all it was worth. Take these two scenes from the original Scream, for instance, released in 1996. In one of the scenes, a character makes the assumption that all horror films are the same.
No, it's just, what's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
And in another scene, characters are poking fun at the cliche that the character in any horror movie that says, "I'll be right back," will meet a grisly and horrible fate.
Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, "I'll be right back," because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!
Moreover, the 90s found itself to be the first major era of horror remakes, in which instead of utilizing new ideas, studios were increasingly shifting towards recycling already established ideas such as the remakes to Dracula and Frankenstein. However, deep in the quiet shadows, a phenomenon known as children's horror began to rise from the ashes and sweep the world of horror fiction for a new generation of readers and moviegoers alike. Books such as Scariest Stories to Tell in the Dark and Fear Street began to fill school libraries. The TV series Are You Afraid of the Dark also introduced children to horror, as the show followed a Twilight Zone-like format, in which each episode contained a new and different set of characters and plots each time. But undoubtedly, the greatest example of children's horror is that of the Goosebumps books. I absolutely adore these books. Debuting in 1992 and written by horror fiction and children's horror icon R.L. Stine, the original Goosebumps series consisted of 62 books and featured tales regarding everything from monsters terrorizing a group of children to cursed and haunted objects such as cameras or mirrors. Goosebumps made an entire generation of children fall in love with reading, a phenomenon that persists well after the release of the original lineup of books.
For a lot of years, I wrote humor for kids. And then one day I was having lunch with an editor, and she said to me, "I'll bet you could write a good scary book for kids." And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to try doing a Twilight Zone for kids?
Stine perfected the true essence of children's horror, how, though nobody is killed, characters are frightened out of their wits and moral lessons are learned after a monster or great evil is defeated. Soon, the immense popularity of the books launched the iconic Goosebumps television series, first airing in October of 1995. Most of the episodes of the series were direct adaptations of the books, with my personal favorite as well as arguably the greatest episode, The Haunted Mask, remaining an essential watch throughout the month of October and especially the closer you get to Halloween. The feel and look of the episode captures the essence of Halloween perhaps more than any other episode, showcasing the tragedy of Carly Beth and her struggle with a malicious mask that she is unable to take off. The themes, soundtrack, acting, and substance of The Haunted Mask is enough to cement the episode as a downright masterpiece. And R.L. Stine himself stated that this book and plot was his favorite that he ever created. Many of the books and episodes are entertaining, and even some of the atmospheres that one would feel whilst watching an episode simply sticks with you, and that may be the most powerful element of the show all these years later, aside from all those neat monsters and villains, of course. Yet I was always intrigued by this one Goosebumps book in particular, which I consider to be the most disturbing, that being Welcome to Dead House, which coincidentally is actually the very first Goosebumps book ever published. Even if you never read the book, you have probably seen this ominous cover depicting a dark, imposing house and a strange man lurking in the window, easily one of the most iconic of artist Tim Jacobus' work. Of course, the book got its television treatment in 1997 as a two-parter. Let's take a look. The episode begins with an opener in which R.L. Stine gives an opening prologue warning the viewer of the terrors that await them.
Better look under the bed at night before you go to sleep. And when you make new friends, always check to see who's dead and who's alive.
I was always fond of these introductions as, while they were sparse and only sporadically used, added a sense of greater importance to the episodes compared to the installments without the introduction. We are then introduced to the Bensons, a family consisting of the excited and forward-looking parents, as well as the not-so-excited Amanda and Josh, who are unamused that they are moving to a small and decrepit town with the peculiar name of Dark Falls, and its macabre essence.
The real estate agent did admit his town had lost some jobs recently.
Great, we're moving to a place that's totally dead.
Right off the bat, all we see of Dark Falls is what appears to be abandoned houses and a defunct chemical plant, beginning the episode on an unsettling note which plays into one of the most overarching strengths of the episode, and that being its dim visuals and lighting. Despite the fact that the plot is set during the middle of the summer, every single scene just feels dreary, whether shot in an interior location inside of a house, or an exterior scene outside with nothing but an overcast sky and dead leaves. The whole episode shares a depressing essence and aura, which helps make it memorable and eerie. They eventually arrive at the incredibly old and derelict house, though it isn't long before the family's house-moving process takes a turn for the strange when Amanda notices a bizarre figure in one of the house's upper windows.
What is it?
To make matters worse for Amanda, Petey, the dog, runs up the creaky stairs and she is instructed to look for him, setting her off on a journey through the old house devoid of lights until she stumbles upon the culprit in the window itself. The man happens to be the realtor that sold the family the house, and, while greeting the family, states that he fell asleep in the dark room prior to their arrival, of which the family simply bypasses as totally normal, unlike Petey, who senses that the man might know more than he is letting on. Mr. Dawes, the realtor, is also unsettled by a decorative wreath possessed by the family, spurring his hasty departure and a cynical comment from Josh.
I hate this place.
Unlike Amanda, Josh is much more extroverted and outspoken in his speech, lambasting the town, while Amanda remains in a silence of disapproval throughout the very beginning until she encounters what is akin to ghostly apparitions from the house next door, as well as from right outside her room in the hallway. Despite hearing disembodied cries and seeing shadowy figures, the family investigates, but their efforts prove futile, as unsurprisingly, nothing is uncovered. Subsequently, whilst the moving process continues, Josh and Amanda take Petey out for a walk as they seek to explore the town. Yet we immediately get the sense that every single inhabitant of Dark Falls are abnormally pale and cadaverous, but also act in an offbeat fashion.
Let's get out of here. This place gives me the creeps.
There is something about the following shots in which we see Josh and Amanda walking, how you'd think the town would be riddled with pedestrians or at least joggers, especially in a more remote setting, but everything just feels so isolated and lonely, only complemented by the gorgeous overcast sky and virtually abandoned locations they traverse in. They soon get ambushed by a group of teenagers their age who retain the collective similarity of wearing hats and especially drabby clothing. Ray, the leader of the band of odd juveniles, approaches the pair and Amanda instantly recognizes him as the apparition that stalked her the night before. Ray proceeds to state that he used to live in the house the Bensons moved into when he had first moved to Dark Falls with his family, yet fails to respond when Amanda asks where he currently lives. The group of kids soon depart, just as the sun rays emerge from out of the clouds. That night, Amanda is awoken yet again, except this time by a girl in a black dress equipped with warnings.
Get away. Get up while you can. Get away.
Though her family remains reluctant to believe what they perceive are her ghost stories, a large hole is found in the wall in her closet, which soon gets patched up in the morning. Unshaken by her family's skepticism, Amanda holds firm that the visions she is seeing are in fact real as opposed to imaginary.
I'm telling you, Dad, something is wrong with this house.
Honey, you said you saw someone on the first night. But I checked everywhere, and there wasn't a soul around.
Amanda's paranoia begins to rub off on Josh, as the uneasiness exuded from the town begins to linger over them, all the while a hand punches through the recently sealed hole in the wall that night. Prompting yet another family investigation, the open hole is examined, yet Petey grabs a newspaper from off the ground which seemed to have been dropped by whoever made the hole, but to the dismay of the family, the newspaper reveals that a large hazardous chemical spill struck the town 3 years prior to their move, angering the father who confronts Mr. Dawes.
Accident in a chemical factory kills workers.
Why didn't you tell us about this?
It was 3 years ago.
What about pollution? What if dangerous chemicals are still in the environment?
To cope with the never-ending frights, Amanda becomes friends with a local girl named Karen, who ultimately grows frightened by the family's wreath, as every other Dark Falls resident who came across the wreath also has. To make matters even worse, Petey runs away, making Josh and Amanda pursue after him in an effort to find him in the dark wilderness of Dark Falls. While there, Petey continues to evade them, setting them off on a wild goose chase until they stumble upon most of the residents of Dark Falls, all congregated near a cemetery. Upon the breaking of a twig, the townspeople chase after Josh and Amanda, but are cornered by the teenagers they came into contact with before.
Do you remember me?
Ray!
So, there you have it. The population of Dark Falls is an undead collective group of zombie vampires who seek human blood and increase the population by feeding on new human residents. Upon returning home, where Karen's parents are dining with the Benson family that evening, the pair claims that they are being chased by undead hordes, and the two families quickly blockade all the doors and windows. Convinced that the wreath is the object behind the ghoulish uprising of hunger, the Bensons dispose of it by throwing it into the fireplace, soon realizing that they were tricked by Karen's family in doing so, considering the wreath was the only object that kept them safe. As the zombies break into the house en masse, the Bensons rush upstairs right when the situation becomes increasingly desperate. The undead ghouls grab and taunt the Bensons. Though when it seems all hope is lost, Josh and Amanda are cornered against a pair of large windows covered in wood planks, and, upon realizing the ghouls' weakness is that of sunlight, take the planks down one by one, decimating the once-alive people of Dark Falls and thus saving the family in the process. After making a daring escape from Dark Falls, they finally reunite with Petey, though, in typical Goosebumps fashion, Petey is not what he once was. Overall, this is actually quite a decent episode as far as filming locations, atmosphere, music, and even acting is concerned. The lack of violence within this episode is supplemented with heavy suspense, and at the end of the day, that is really all you need. But what makes this episode, book, and general story so disturbing is its incorporation of real-life horrors. The crux of the horror embedded in Welcome to Dead House is the fact that it was a spill at a chemical plant which polluted the surrounding environment and, as a result, killed the population of the town due to the hazardous nature of the chemicals. That is a very, very realistic catastrophe, as we see such scenarios unfold time and time again in world history, when hundreds, and often thousands, either perish or are irradiated due to nuclear accidents or spills of a malign nature. Whole areas are turned into empty wastelands as a result of such disasters, which very much resembles Dark Falls in the episode, and the impacts of said disasters can still be seen in many people today, who unfortunately are still struggling with the aftermath of the disaster within their health and livelihoods. Welcome to Dead House addresses and warns against such disasters in the way in which young readers and a young audience can understand much more clearly, how the residents of Dark Falls were converted into bloodthirsty zombies. Moreover, the disdain that Josh and Amanda have for Dark Falls is very much a personal form of horror many could relate to, as most people at some point of their lives, as children or teenagers, move from one location to another and even constantly, leaving all of their friends behind in a saddening series of events. It can be frustrating to be discounted by parental units when all you want to do is return to the lifestyle you once had at a former house, as you are terrified of what awaits you as you move into a new town. You may grow anxious or become down as a result of the uncertainty attached to moving to a new location, fearing whether or not you will even be accepted by those around you in school and elsewhere. A fear which dissipates greatly as you enter adulthood. To just about any kid, the towns they move into may resemble Dark Falls even if it is a thriving suburban setting or another harmless-looking setting. None of this matters as the fear of what lies ahead remains too strong. For these reasons, aside from the patently nightmarish and effective visuals, camera work, and claustrophobic feel, Welcome to Dead House remains a truly disturbing yet enjoyable entry in the world of Goosebumps, a world filled with moral lessons and worthwhile horror stories that hold up even today, even if you are not an adolescent. The spirit of Goosebumps remains a cornerstone of the world of horror, as children's horror, though mostly prevalent in the 1990s, just won't die.
Petey, for a dog, you're a great actor. You really scared me when you played dead. You're acting now, right? He's good. He's really good.